My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another Meet Cool People show. And today's guest is somebody who I have been friends with for a couple of years now, so it's an honor to get her to come hang out today. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Heather Harden. She helps driven, service-oriented life coaches. Nope, I'm going to restart that. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Meet Cool People, and I have the honor of bringing in a friend of mine who I have been friends with for a couple of years now. I mean, it's at least 2 years, it's got to be. And this is Heather Harden. Driven, service-oriented life coaches hired her to help to kill the overwhelm in managing their day-to-day operations by removing inconsistent workflows and streamlining their effective team integrations. Bottom line, what it really means is she helps them streamline their operations to achieve sustainable growth and turn their vision into a thriving business. With that said, Heather, thank you for coming and hanging out today.
My pleasure, Eli.
So I got a bit of an intro for you, but tell us a little bit more about who you're working with and how you help your clients.
Okay. Where my clients see the most benefit from working with me is when they're in transition periods. So say small business owners who are transitioning to mid-level or mid-level to larger. I especially love helping some of those small to mid really look forward into the future and start developing the scalable solutions that they're going to need for when they're making, those bigger numbers that they're really looking at and have a ton of people working with them.
Right. Okay. No, and I love that, because one of the things that I find a lot of entrepreneurs, and you and I have worked with a lot of the same people and the same types of people for quite a while, is that everybody gets to that point where they got to bring in somebody, and the first thing they do is they hire a VA, but then they get to that next step and they need somebody who can actually manage all the monkeys and all the squirrels that are running around and make sure nobody runs off. And that's one of the fun things that I know that you do. I know you're helping several clients. And one of the things I was actually going to bring up that I forgot to was how you and I met. So you and I met because of Martin Salama, and you were on his team originally when he was coming in as a client with me, which for anybody who is binge listening, you've probably already heard Martin, because he was on an interview. It was episode 5. Let me go look. No, episode 6. I got it pulled up over here just so I make sure I got the right one. So he was episode 6 on the show, but that's how you and I met, was in that process. You and your brother were working with Martin, and we just hit it off immediately, which I love that. It's so fun when you find somebody who you just connect, and you got that, especially when we're both kind of geeky and we're talking about all the stuff behind the scenes. We gelled immediately. So I love that piece, and I see where you've gone with it ever since. So yeah, what do you want to add to that as we're going through and starting off here?
First is just deep appreciation, because a lot of the more advanced systems that I'm not riffing off of you, but it inspired so much deeper analysis and thought in the processes that I was implementing in my business. But anybody listening, please, Eli is a genius. He really, truly is. He took me through all of my understanding. I had a very rudimentary understanding of automations and how, to put some together that were all right. They were all right. They did what they needed to, but that was it. The nuance and understanding that you bring to that picture, and really humanizing these automatic functions, is astonishing, and it really informed a lot of the development work that I do now.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Just for the record, I did not pay her to say that. So I had no clue she was going to put that out there, but I do appreciate it. And you and I've had a lot of time to get to work together. You've been through my coaching program with the Follow Up Rockstar system. And it's cool to see kind of where you've taken things on your side, and you do the part that I don't really do, which is basically the management of the team side. And I love how you're doing that. I know how you're doing that, helping a lot of clients. And so when somebody comes to, when do you find somebody who's at that right point of, okay, wait a minute, I need some help? Where are they struggling the most when they come to you? Because I'd like to hear that one specifically.
In terms of structure, generally it's someone who is incredibly creative and they've got a lot of drive, but creative minds like that, they'll develop this over here and then this over here, but bringing those together into a structured whole can be difficult for them. And that's where I come in, not only from the aspect of, okay, well, these ideas are both great, but now let's connect them. Let's flesh out everything that you're doing and make it harmonious and synergistic, but also introduce some of these automations and different techniques of utilizing your software that will take some of the more in the weeds, digging in the dirt activities off of your plate.
That is great. I love the explanation on that. So how did you get started on this side? That's always the fun part, is like, how did you get into this crazy world of everything that you're doing and all the people you're helping right now?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, and I usually don't bring this story up because people think that I'm not an age that I am, and it ages me a little bit, is way back decades ago. In high school, I had to take an elective in computer. Just computer anything, really, was what they were aiming at. And I chose QBasic. Just computer programming. I have no idea why in the world I decided to choose it, but I did. Did great, fell in love with it, and then in college had to take logic, which, the two just completely merged. And then later, many years later, I started with an interesting company that was nutrition-based online. They were expanding very rapidly. They went from I believe it was 6 or 8 clients to over 1,000 in a 6-month time frame. And I was their first team member outside of the 2 founders. And oh man, the infrastructure that had to be built in order to sustain that growth I'm still astonished looking back at how smoothly everything went, considering the speed and scale of growth. But that was really where all the pieces started to come together. And then along the way, I just keep adding, expert, that next level, like what you offered in working with me in the automations. Keep anything I can learn to help my clients. I keep sticking in there, getting to more and more and more depth.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And it's, the fact that that is so important for anybody. Doesn't matter what business you're in. We have to keep learning. We have to stay ahead. And one of the things that's really important is also looking at how can you take a nugget and integrate it to help yourself or your clients. And that's one of the things I still strive for that. When I see somebody else doing something, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let me see. Can I take this piece and can I massage it into my system? Because me, everything is systematized. And and many times I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's doing this is pretty cool. This person over here, that would be awesome for them. And then I'm like, okay, so this is what I recommend for you. And this is how I recommend we do it. And next they're like, where did that come from? I was like, oh, this guy's selling vacuums over here came up with the idea. You never know where it came from. And just for the record, to qualify your, the whole aging thing, I started programming on a Commodore 64. So if that tells you anything. Yes. Yeah, back in the day where we were just like, we were so excited about Hello World.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still use that everywhere that I can.
Oh,
just
definitely.
As a throwback.
That is hilarious. Very cool. So one of the things that I always love like, I know you've been helping Martin specifically, and you've been helping some other clients with this. Where are some of the pieces where like you've helped develop the pieces that are streamlining what they're doing right now? I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit of that. And I think, some of the stuff you're doing with Martin, I think would be a great example, because I see it. I see what you're doing with that. I would love to kind of share a little bit of that story and where you're helping him systematize his processes.
Yeah. Well, because Martin and I are business partners, I really use his software as kind of a petri dish to export to everybody else. And like what's in the lab, an entire system of pipeline. And a lot of what I did with you has informed what I'm going to be doing with automating the pipelines and movement through them, so that the business owner can approach the sales call and not be stressed out about any of the follow-up. That will be automated, emails going out when they need to, SMS going when it needs to, and following back up with people if you're not hearing back from them, all of that, to include moving them through the sales cycle in terms of the back-end dashboard as well. So it all becomes incredibly easy to deal with, very approachable, but very, very deeply accurate as well. Because sometimes you'll lose one or the other. Either you're losing data in making it easier to deal with, or you're losing the more approachable aspects when you're really digging into the data, unless you're paying, and using something like Salesforce or the upper levels of HubSpot or something like that. And I really like finding that sweet spot where it's not going to be incredibly expensive, but you still get all of those easy to use and data-driven elements.
Right. And I think what you just talked about is like, let's kind of touch on that, the pipeline process, because a lot of people don't understand that. First and foremost, you and I are talking CRMs. And for anybody who doesn't know, CRM, most people say customer relationship manager. I say client relationship manager, because we don't have customers. We have clients. Walmart has customers, and that's all transactional. We don't like that stuff. So as you're sitting here giggling at me because you've heard me say that before. When you're using a CRM, that's one of the things I think a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, they know they need a CRM because they're being told that by people like us, but then they don't really know what to do with it. And I think that it gets pushed off, especially with what you're talking about going down pipelines as a great example. Usually when you think about like opportunities and pipelines, that's the sales guys stuff. But what if you are the entrepreneur and you are the sales guy? Yep. Most people don't go down thinking through that process. So what are some of the things that people should be thinking about from that? What are some of the steps they could be looking at and maybe putting that into their own CRM if they've got that? Because I think that that's something that we could help some people out really well with.
Well, the first point that I would make is if you don't have a CRM and you've got a business, you've got a problem, as you were just saying. Because if you're not gathering all of that data, there's no way that you'll know who to follow up with. Sometimes when we get busy as entrepreneurs, you even forget like an entire year of, I was talking to those people. This helps you to remember not only that, but also to develop strategies for reaching back out to them in a timely manner so that they're not falling through the cracks. So specifically, the software that I have really latched onto recently, because I've been tremendously impressed with it since you presented it with us, actually, is Go High Level. I've used, ClickFunnels and WordPress and Kajabi and, so many others to try and manage that. But the inclusive nature of Go High Level in creating a database and then being able to interact with that database is really, it's beyond what any of the other systems I've used is capable of, and much more smoothly. So ideally, what you would have going on is gathering these people that you're talking to, gathering people that you think have the potential to be someone that would be interested in talking to you, reaching out to them, and gathering the data on how many of those people are agreeing to meetings with you, how many are agreeing to move forward in the sales cycle. And every single step of that needs to be, I believe, visually represented somewhere in your systems. I like how Go High Level does that. Some other systems do that all right as well, but it's a very, very, very important part, especially for entrepreneurs, I find, because we tend to be a very largely visual learners and visual processors. So I like to have that as an option in presenting that information because it's easier for you to make adjustments from as well. So, but you can't do any of that if you don't have the CRM to package it all.
Well, and so everybody understands what she's saying here is that you're looking at that visual process of, here's these leads. These are people that have just come into my world. And then how many people have I talked to? How many people have I made offers to? How many people have actually signed up? What's the next step? And, you can go through a lot of that. And all we're doing is we're talking about stages of where people are in your sales process. And a lot of just, out of the gate entrepreneurs struggle with that, getting that figured out. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to organize that. And I think you brought up a really important thing. And this is what's, to me, is super important is, when do you follow up with them? Everybody knows I'm the follow-up guy. That's what everything I teach is all based around that. But a lot of times people, they have clients or prospects, I should say, that they're falling through the cracks. And that's what we're talking about putting into place here, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Very cool. So what are some of the biggest pitfalls you see clients getting into when they're first looking at, like, they might have a CRM, and it doesn't matter what platform they're really using. I mean, obviously we do have our preference, and, we're both
Definitely.
using High Level. Love it. Hopefully this won't become obsolete down the road. The last CRM I had for 14, 15 years before I finally got rid of them. And, these have been great. And yes, for everybody who's asking, I am an affiliate. I'm happy to give you a link. But it's not a matter of the technology. It's about the psychology. It's what do you do? How do you build the process? I would love for you to kind of give a little insight to your thought process on some of the steps people need to think about. And like for me, I always tell people, get out a piece of paper and write what are the steps. Like, write them down. So what are some of those steps people should be thinking about in their sales conversation that maybe, they should be setting up in, if they're going to build out a pipeline, that process? What are some of the steps they should be thinking about?
Honestly, the tool I like the best for people I'm talking to about this is, it's a very old teaching technique that a lot of content creators will use as well. Get out a piece of paper, an actual piece of paper, not anything on the computer. Notebook paper is perfect. Get a pencil, not a pen, because things are going to change as you go through this exercise. And on one side, put where you're starting. It can be wherever you're comfortable with. It could be, okay, I'm going to go cold call these people. It could be, I want to use LinkedIn, wherever you're starting with the people that you're going to be reaching out to. And then on the other side of the paper, put where they are actually crossing the line and working with you, whether that's a program or an action, whatever that last step is, when they are handing you their credit card numbers so that they can work with you. And then outline every step in between that you are currently taking. It's not going to be identical for everyone, okay? But each and every single step needs to be delineated. Okay, did I email this person? Did I reach out via Messenger? Did I WhatsApp them? Did I call them? Whatever you did, that's a step. Okay, how did you move them to the next step? Did you go, hey, let's do a call? They schedule a call? Did you just randomly call them up? Whatever it was, whatever your next step typically is, that's your next step. After that, what parts of the conversation were important for them to actually convert to going, oh yeah, this sounds amazing, here's my information. That needs to be delineated as well. And once you have your paper with all those steps on it, it will become much clearer on which of these things need to be tracked and where. For example, if you are, say you're doing a workshop or a webinar, you'll have registrations, you'll have people who stayed for the entire presentation who maybe are getting a replay. You have then people that you're going to have further conversations with, people who have visited the conversion page, people who have interacted with the conversion page, whether it is opting into something or buying something, people that you need to have further conversations with, people who have bought the end product, whatever it is. That's just one example of a follow-through pipeline that you would have for the sales funnel that you can track.
Well put. And I love that because breaking it down is so important. For me personally, and I think you might have heard this probably a long time ago. It's been a while since I've talked about this, is everything that I do and everything that I teach is based around a principle that I actually learned from my mentor, Armin Morin, which would have been, 20 years ago, probably. And it was 3 simple words: next logical step.
Yep.
And everything I do is about that. And everything that we teach in our system is about that. And I know that's what you're doing. And I love how you put that out there. Is like, if you think about your sales process, what's the next step? And what's the next step? And you brought up something that I think is really important to talk about as well, is what were the, not just what the conversation was, but also what were their questions? What were the things that happened that caused them to say, okay, I'm ready, or to say, nope, it's not for me? Like, think about those conversations and make note of those things. And with any good CRM, you should have a place you can take notes. You should always be taking notes and put it in a record, because then you can go back and look at that down the road. It's like I can pull up conversations I've had with everybody that I've ever talked to, because they go into the CRM. And I put those, like with my old CRM, I had data going back to where I could say, yeah, you and I originally met at this event back in 2008. And this is what we talked about. And then down the road, it's like, oh, and we met here and we met here and we met here. Cause I was very meticulous about that stuff. And I mean, it's like, it becomes very creepy. What was that?
I said, I have seen it firsthand. Yeah. It is true.
It becomes a little creepy because people are so impressed on how good my memory is. It's like, my memory's not that good. I have it all written down somewhere. But that is it's so powerful to have that information, especially visionaries, the entrepreneurs, usually the visionary, they tend to be, they don't think about those kind of details because they're thinking 30,000 feet up and what's the next step. They're not thinking about the history, but those details are so, so powerful, and it really can make a difference in those conversations and actually closing those sales too.
Yeah. That's an interesting point for you to bring up too, is them looking at it from the 30,000 foot view, because, and you and I both have extensive experience with this, particularly you, is that they will have that, okay, well, here's this step, this is where I'm getting to. But if they look at the between here and there and put the right systems in place, they can go so much further than they're envisioning even. So even while they're, considering themselves as visionaries, they're not as visionary as they could be with a little bit of help.
Right. No, and I 100% agree with that. And that's one of the things I like to do also with clients is I will go back and look at how can we reverse engineer? Okay, this is where you want to go. What are the steps we need to go there? And the funny thing is, a lot of times when we start having those conversations, I'm there as a consultant to talk about, okay, here's what the steps, and here's those attention to detail pieces that you're not thinking about. And then they'll come back and go, oh, wait a minute. Well, that brings this up. And that's where we're talking about exactly what you're saying, is like, next thing you know, the whole thing is exploded and it's got even bigger, better, cooler. Right. And that's always fun when you can do that kind of stuff.
That's my favorite part. Always.
Definitely. So what else do you think we should talk about? Because we could have all kinds of fun stuff with this. Is there anything that I left out that we want to talk about that you think is important for people to understand with this process, especially if they're bringing in somebody as an operations manager? Because that's ultimately what your job is and how you help these people. Anything else that we skipped over that you think that they should be thinking about?
Nothing that we skipped over per se, but something very important to consider. If you are bringing someone on to help with operations or in a fractional COO capacity, it's incredibly important to make sure that you can communicate effectively with them. They're going to be the ones handling really the majority of your business while you are developing the ideas. They're managing your team. They're managing implementation of everything that needs to be in place for you to grow. And if you can't communicate effectively with them, nothing's going to happen. It's all going to fall to pieces and going to be in worse shape than it was when it started. So make sure you can communicate with them. They understand what you're saying. You understand what they're saying. And your ideas can be merged together in a beautiful whole, not in a whole. Very, very, very important. You don't want to be hamstringing anyone.
Right. No, and it really is. It goes down to one thing I always talk about is communication is the key, and that it really is a big piece. And I think that to add on to that, people need to know that if you have an operations manager coming in and helping you out, give them every tool you possibly can. Be there for them. Communicate with them. If you're having an idea of something, you got an idea of something you might want to even do 6 months from now, jot it all down and then have that conversation at your next meeting, however you do that. And say, hey, this is an idea I'm thinking about putting out there. I just want to let you know what it is. And then you guys can like spitball it and figure out what to do. Is this something maybe we say, okay, yeah, this is cool. We're not going to touch it for 6 months, or wait a minute, this could be something fun. Let's do this now, because you're going to get a couple of things. Number one is the communication. It's very important that as the owner of the business, I know that how critical it is for your team to understand where you're coming from and what your thoughts and ideas are, so everybody can be on board. But also, you're getting a second pair of eyes on it. You're getting somebody else's thoughts and how they can respond to that and go, well, wait a minute, if you want to do this, maybe we could do this. And now you start getting that bigger picture, and it can be solidified much, much faster too.
Yeah. Additionally, you're also leveraging their experience in being able to tell you if your idea is easily implemented or if it's going to take, that 6 months of development before it can be launched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's also a very important thing, because then that way people can kind of see, well, this is, they can get clear expectations. I might come through and say, hey, I think this idea will be really quick. We should be able to knock it out in the next 48 hours. You're like, no. It's going to take way longer than that, which, by the way, when you're just starting to adding people to a team, that is usually the answer. Wait a minute, it's going to take a bit longer. Trust me, I know that from personal experience. Yeah. So let's go ahead and give people an action step of something that they can do right away to start preparing themselves for bringing on somebody like you to run that operations behind the scenes. What would that be?
Okay. For anybody that I am having a meeting with in order to onboard, it's incredibly important for them to have everything together. It does not have to be this incredibly organized thing, because that is what I'm coming in to help with. But you do want to have all of your ideas in one place. One thing that I absolutely love, because it really helps you to get to know the client a lot better, is if I'm speaking to you as the client, the potential client here, do a video, okay? And this will help you as well. Even if you don't reach out to anybody, record a video of you going through the process. If you are, say, evaluating your offerings, the products that you're offering, record a video as if you're in a meeting with somebody talking about what each of the programs offers or each of the products offer, okay? You go through all of your processes. If you've got some emails together, record another video going through the emails and talking about what each of them is supposed to accomplish and where they can be found, what the triggers are for the action if you're that deeply into the process and know what that means. If not, just record what you've got. Even if it's just you holding up a piece of notebook paper going, hey, these are my current ideas. I don't know what to do with them, but here they are. I'll take a picture and send it to you. And you get all your stuff in one place. Google Drive is free. Yep, free email. You've got some space in there. Use it. Put everything in one place, and then people can begin to help you. This is also good practice for when you start needing to develop standard operating procedures. Because if you're bringing in a VA, you're not going to necessarily have that high-level critical thinking element that you will with a fractional COO or something similar. And so really breaking things down step by step is incredibly important. And getting into the practice of taking a video of what you're doing so that they can both see and hear it is very important. And it forces you to actually go through it step by step and explain it, which is not necessarily an easy process. And a lot of people can struggle in that. So it gives you an opportunity to do it when maybe you can do it a couple of times to make sure it's clear when you're not in a meeting and just confusing the other person.
I love it. Very well done. And for anybody who's thinking is like, okay, how do I make this happen? Loom, LOM.com is a great tool, an amazing resource. I use it at least 5 times a day for the very simple fact that I use it with both clients, with VAs, with anybody and everybody. If I'm trying to help people out, it's a world of difference. And that's a great way to basically record yourself going through these processes that she's talking about here. That I think that is so critical. And that's something that I've always been an advocate for a long time is, record these videos of here's the steps. And it is for 2 things. I mean, and actually it's more than just to give it to somebody else for them to go through. But a lot of times if you record those steps, it also gives you the reference points. So you make sure you stay more consistent for the pieces that you're actually doing. So it's kind of for me, half the time I record stuff and create SOPs for myself, knowing I want to give it to somebody else eventually. But to begin with, it's so I am more consistent in what I do. So it's one of those things as a business owner, especially when you're just getting ready to get started, I highly recommend you start doing that now. Then that way you'll have the parts and pieces ready to go, whether you're hiring a VA or you're ready to go to that next level and have an operations person come in for you. So any last thoughts on this process before we start wrapping up? We're getting kind of close to the end here.
If you feel you need help, you probably do.
There we go. That's a great one. Awesome. Okay. So I don't think we need to go any further on any more detail on that one right there, because it's just true. So this is the Meet Cool People show. What I would love for you to share, what does Meet Cool People mean to you?
As a concept, Meet Cool People really means engaging with people that you vibe with. It's, in the business world, there used to be very much this, okay, well, I'm over here, I'm wearing a suit, you're over there wearing a suit, but there wasn't a lot of touch point in between, unless, you were going to go have drinks after work. And in the digital world, that's a lot more difficult, especially when we all have meetings from morning till night and are trying to get projects pushed forward. So Meet Cool People is really about having a space to connect with people, get to know them a little bit better, and add some humanity to what can be a very lonely and dry process if you don't have that element added.
I love it. And it is so true. It's so funny. I always tell people, even though we're more connected, like we're doing back-to-back Zoom calls and we're connected with people all over the globe, we're a lot more disconnected than we ever have been in society. And so I totally agree with you on that. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas on that. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you and see if maybe you can help them out?
Definitely through my website. It's NACHAT Consulting.com. That is NACHAT Consulting.com.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Thank you so much, Heather. It is always fun getting to talk to you because we get to talk about geeky stuff, and that's always a fun time. With that said, everybody get out there, have an amazing day. Connect with Heather. You can also find her online. She's out there in a couple different places. But get out there, have an awesome day. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out and let me know. Take care.
And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.